All right. So things got a little bit crazy there at the end of that last video. The takeaway of the last lesson should have mostly been that the meteor.user object is reactive and that there is a collection of user objects. I want to kind of take a step back a little bit and kind of break down those last couple things I did sort of quickly. Now, in order for us to do this, before we had a whole bunch of stuff in our app that we had maybe added from clicking and stuff. And we were also logged in. If you want to clear out all of the items in your database so that you can start over fresh and clean, because sometimes as your code is changing, the data that got into your database doesn't really make sense in terms of the code you have anymore. So if you want to clear everything from your database, you just need to go into your terminal. We need to kill our app, so hit Control C, and then we just run the command meteor reset, and that will reset our project for us. So let's restart our app now. And here's our project. So, basically, what we did last time was we were creating a collection of tweet objects, but what we really wanted was an association between our tweet objects and our user that created those tweets. Effectively, we only want users to be able to create their own tweets and delete their own tweets, and we don't want other users to be able to muck with each other's tweets. So this kind of relationship is usually described as a many-to-one relationship. Basically meaning there will be many items, or tweets in this case, to one object, which is the user. Another way we could see this is, say this is every tweet belongs to a user. Or we could say every user has many tweets. Saying that every tweet belongs to a user is a more accurate description than saying every user has many tweets. Because if you remember from the last video, we keep track of every object in a collection by using that unique ID field at the end of any object that's been inserted into a collection. So saying that every user has many tweets sounds like the user object has an array of tweet IDs on it. But instead, the more accurate representation is that every tweet has a single owner field that points to the ID of a user. Like that. So I basically want to go through the steps of creating this sort of relationship. So ultimately, your app underneath the hood is just going to be a bunch of these collections, and some of these collections will belong to items in other collections. So there will be relationships between these lists of data. Typically, it will be one item belonging to another item. Occasionally, you could have what's called a many-to-many relationship. A many-to-many relationship would occur if a tweet somehow had multiple creators and a user also had multiple tweets. Typically, you won't see these type of relationships very often. More often, you'll see the one-to-many or many-to-one, such as, let me think of some examples. if you had a list of restaurants in your app and each restaurant could have multiple recipes, well, each recipe would belong to a restaurant. And so if we have a recipe object, looks like this, it's going to have an owner field that's a restaurant ID, right? And then the recipe could, have a bunch of other bits of data inside of it as well. The other way we might see this represented is instead of saying owner, you might say created by. This is often a more accurate description if the user is creating a certain item. So we're actually going to use the created by field because we're going to say each tweet was created by a user. I just said owner originally because it's easier when you're thinking about it in terms of a tweet belonging to a user by having this ID that connects them. But really, most of the time, the way you'll represent it is you'll say this tweet was created by a certain user's ID. So that was a lot of talking about the concepts there. So let's go ahead and dive back into our app. So we've cleared out our database. We're currently logged out. It deleted all of our users as well when we did that. So let's go ahead and sign up for this app. Okay, and we are now logged in. So something I've done is, in my code, I've said to log out the meteor.user object to the console. And normally I wouldn't recommend logging things out in this fashion, but just to demonstrate this concept, it'll be sufficient. Whoops. Here we go. So we can see right here in the console, this is our user object. And if you look into our user object, let me zoom out a little, you can see that there's an array of emails. And on that array, there is one email right here. So if we want to get access to this email, we would have to go meteor.user, that'd be this object, .emails, brackets 0, .address, which is unfortunately a bit of a convoluted way to get access to this email address, but this user object does have a lot of information it has to store on it. So basically, I want to show the email address for each creator of a certain tweet. So we'll go into WebStorm. We'll delete this console.log because we don't need that anymore. So right here, we had last time, we had this owner field when we were creating our tweet. But now, I would like to change that owner field. To say created by, because that's just a better way to explain what's happening, that this tweet was created by the current user that was logged in. And I'm actually going to go ahead and delete, we'll leave it as it currently is. So instead of saying this tweet belongs to, we'll just say this is some text. Basically, what I'd like to do in a later video is make it so that the user can dynamically set the text on each tweet. But I think it's complicated enough just showing how you have a certain tweet created by a given user. So we'll just stick with that for now. So a tweet is created by a user. And now, let's say in our repeat block over here, in our each collection, we want to say the email address of whoever created the current tweet. So if we want to get something new into our code, we're going to need to create a helper. So first, I'm going to make the handlebars in my HTML. So here we're going to say, this tweet was created by, and then we'll say email. So now we need to go create an email helper in our JavaScript file. So we'll go here, and now we will say email function. And here we're just going to return the current meteor.user underscore ID. Wait a second. That would just say what we had last time, where it would be like this tweet was created by, and then some crazy random generated ID. We want to show the email address that I just pulled up in Chrome. Let me pull up the documentation here. So I'm actually opening the docs right now. So if you go into the documentation, you will actually see what a user object looks like. So that, you know, it's got an ID field. You could set a username on it. There's other information you could put on it. But basically, I just want to get to this emails array and then access the first address. So I'll do meteor.user.emails. That's an array. I want to grab the first item. And then I'll say, I forgot what it was, emails.address. All right. And that should return my email address. So now if we go into the app, we're logged in. It says this tweet was created by wesleyfsmith@gmail.com. This tweet was created by wesleyfsmith@gmail.com. Nice. So you'll notice my HTML has gotten a little wonky here. So this is one of the repeat blocks, and here's the other repeat block. It's getting a bit weird because I used an LI and then an H4, and we're not using Bootstrap yet. So it's kind of creating a gross layout here. So why don't I change this to a P tag and see if that doesn't look a little bit better. That's okay. We'll leave it as is for now. So I can click that and then it'll add another tweet. And now if I log out, so I'm not logged in anymore. Remember, this is reactive. I'm going to create another account. So we'll do like wes@wes.com. Create this account. Now I'm logged in, and all of the tweets actually updated and currently say that they are owned by the new person. I don't know if you just saw that. That threw me for a loop for a second. Now I see what happened. So there was a bug in our code. So surprise debugging lesson. So let's go ahead. I'll just demonstrate that again. So if we sign out, it says now they're created by nothing, right? And then if we sign in, it says they're created by Wesley F. Smith. Okay, right? So it's clearly just saying who they belong to, whoever's logged in. So that's not very helpful to us. So the problem is, I just realized over here in our email helper, what's happening is we're returning the current user, not the owner of the current tweet that we're looking at. So this definitely makes things different. So